It all started with an email that popped into my inbox on an otherwise quiet Tuesday morning. The subject line read, "Urgent HOA access request." I already had a feeling who it was from before I even opened it. Sure enough, Karen, I knew. HOA president, self-appointed neighborhood watchdog. If anyone could turn a peaceful suburban community into a passive-aggressive battlefield, it was her. Karen had only been in the neighborhood for about 6 months, but somehow she'd managed to ruffle feathers on every street. She was the kind of person who took pictures of people's recycling bins if they weren't rolled in by 6:01 p.m. She once called animal control on a neighbor because their cat looked suspicious. But this time, her target was me. I live at the very back of our community, right next to the service gate. It's a tall wrought iron thing with a heavy-duty lock. The gate isn't a regular entrance, more of a utility access point maintained by the city and the fire department. Emergency vehicles use it sometimes, and the landscapers pass through it once a week. Because of where my house sits, the city gave me a key for convenience. It was a quiet little arrangement, and nobody had ever made a fuss about it till Karen came sniffing around. Her email was as smug as it was ridiculous. "Dear resident," she began, as if we hadn't already exchanged sharp words at the last HOA meeting. "As president of the Homeowners Association, it has come to my attention that you are in possession of a key to the back gate. This is considered a community asset and therefore should be shared among board members for inspection purposes." She even signed off with "warm regards," which was hilarious given that she had threatened to fine my neighbor last week for putting out Halloween decorations before October. I stared at the email, stunned at the pettiness. First of all, she didn't live anywhere near the back gate. Her house was 3 streets over, facing the main entrance. There was absolutely no reason she would need to access the gate unless she planned on inspecting my fence, my garden hose, or how long I let my dog out. And second, it wasn't an HOA gate, it was technically city property, something I reminded her of in my polite but firm reply. Still, that didn't stop her. The very next day, she knocked on my door at 8:30 in the morning. I hadn't even had coffee yet. She was dressed like she was going to a courtroom, heels, blouse, clipboard in hand, and a look of absolute determination. Without saying hello, she launched right in. "I need the key, or I'll have to issue a violation for improper use of community infrastructure," she said. "We can't have residents treating public access gates like personal doors." I raised an eyebrow. "Karen, it's not a public access gate. It's for the fire department and landscaping crews, and I use it because I'm the only house that backs directly onto it." She crossed her arms and tilted her head like a disappointed schoolteacher. "Nevertheless, your private use sets a bad precedent. What if other residents demand their own keys? We need centralized control." This woman really thought she was the commander of Fort Knox. I sighed and leaned against the doorframe. "So, let me get this straight. You, someone who has never had a reason to use that gate, want a key not because you need it, but because you don't like the idea that someone else has one." She didn't flinch. "As HOA president, I'm entitled to oversee all areas of the community, and that includes walking around behind people's fences." She pursed her lips and said, "This is about equity." That's when I realized this wasn't going to end until she got her way. Karen didn't understand boundaries. She saw rules as weapons and authority as a way to insert herself into everyone's lives. So I gave her the one thing she demanded, a key. But not just any key. A few years back, when the city replaced the gate lock, the contractor gave me a couple of spare keys, one real, one modified. The modified one was a little odd. It could unlock the gate from the outside, but once you stepped through and let the gate close, it would auto-lock behind you, and the key wouldn't work from the inside. It had something to do with a mismatch in the tumblers. Basically, you could go out, but you couldn't come back in unless someone opened it for you from inside the neighborhood. It had sat in my junk drawer for years, but now, it had a purpose. I polished the key, made it look fresh and official, and placed it in a nice little envelope labeled HOA Gate Key. The next day I found her pacing around near the front of the neighborhood with her clipboard again. "Karen," I called out cheerfully, "got that key for you." She snatched it like she'd just won a lawsuit. "Took you long enough," she said, without even a thank you. "You're welcome," I replied, grinning. "Let me know how the inspection goes." Later that evening, I sat on my back patio with a cold lemonade and my dog at my feet. The sun was starting to dip below the trees, casting golden light on everything. It would have been peaceful if not for the faint sound of Karen's voice muttering somewhere on the other side of the fence. "There's a broken sprinkler head. Someone left a rake out. That hedge is over regulation height." I leaned Back in my chair, hiding my amusement, I could hear the gate creak open, then silence, then clang, the unmistakable sound of the gate slamming shut. I waited, and then it came. "Hello, excuse me, is someone there?" I took a long, slow sip of lemonade and smiled. She had walked right into it. Karen's voice carried through the evening air like a siren made of pure entitlement. "Hello, hello. I seem to be locked out. Someone opened this gate immediately." I got up slowly from my patio chair, taking my sweet time. My dog lifted his head and gave me that look, half curiosity, half amusement. I patted him on the head and strolled toward the back fence where the service gate sat, thick vines curling lazily along the posts. As I got closer, Karen's voice grew louder, more frantic. "I demand someone open this gate. I am the HOA president. This is unacceptable." When I reached the gate, there she was, Karen, red-faced, gripping the bars like a reality show contestant who just realized the challenge wasn't rigged in her favor. Her heels were sinking into the mulch behind the fence line, and her clipboard was dangling from one wrist like a useless badge of power. "Karen," I said casually, "fancy seeing you out here." Her eyes snapped to me. "Open this gate. This key doesn't work from this side." "I've been out here for 20 minutes. I leaned against the fence and folded my arms. "Really? That's strange. It's the same key I've always used. Works fine for me. It won't turn. The lock must be broken. I'm going to call a locksmith." "Know the board. This is negligence." "Oh no," I said, keeping my face as neutral as possible. "Are you suggesting someone gave you a faulty key?" She narrowed her eyes. "Don't play games. I know you tampered with it." "Now, Karen," I said in my best customer service voice, "you were the one who demanded a key. I simply complied. I gave you what you asked for. You gave me a trap." She barked. I looked her over. She was sweating now, makeup slightly smeared, a strand of hair stuck to her forehead, and a gnat buzzing around her ear that she kept swatting at like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. "You know," I said, "this really is ironic. You insisted on overseeing gate access, and now you're standing on the outside looking in. If this isn't a metaphor for your leadership, I don't know what is." She started muttering something about bylaws, emergency situations, and legal liability, but the truth was, she had no legal footing. The gate wasn't the HOA's responsibility, it was city managed. The HOA had no jurisdiction over it, which I had tried to explain, but she didn't care. Karen never wanted information, she wanted obedience. I let the silence hang in the air for a few seconds longer, then shrugged. "Well, I'd love to open the gate for you, but unfortunately, I'm off the clock. HOA business hours must be over by now, right?" She glared like she wanted to jump through the bars. "You'll regret this," she snapped. "This is a violation of community trust." "Oh no," I said. "You violated community trust the moment you tried to turn this place into a dictatorship with clipboards and complaint forms." "Me, I'm just following orders." She kept fuming, and I turned away, heading back to my patio. As I walked, I heard her try the key again, rattling it against the lock in frustration. Then the sound of her clipboard dropping to the ground. Then silence. And then nothing. About half an hour later, just as dusk started to settle, I noticed movement near the gate. It was one of the maintenance guys, a quiet guy named Miguel who came by twice a week to trim hedges and fix irrigation lines. He had a master key, of course. As he walked up the path with a leaf blower strapped to his back, I heard Karen's shrill voice ring out again. "Oh, thank goodness, you open this gate immediately. This lock is defective. I've been stuck out here for an hour." Miguel paused. He looked confused but obliging. He fumbled for his key, opened the gate, and Karen stormed through like she'd escaped from Alcatraz. She didn't even thank him, just stomped back toward the main street like a defeated general returning from a failed invasion. I waved politely. As she passed, she didn't look at me. That next morning, the entire neighborhood got an email from her. The subject line read, "New gate policy, effective immediately." In it, she claimed that due to a recent safety issue involving unauthorized and potentially hazardous access, all keys to HOA-controlled gates would now be kept in a central secure location and distributed on a case-by-case basis, at the discretion of the board. Of course, the email never mentioned what had actually happened. No apology, no confession, just bureaucratic bluster designed to make her sound like a hero cleaning up someone else's mess. But everyone knew. That same afternoon, I got a visit from my neighbor Jenny, who lived 2 houses down and had witnessed the whole thing from her upstairs window. She came bearing cookies and laughter. I saw her standing there in the dirt, yelling like she was trying to order a pizza through a brick wall. She said, laughing so hard she nearly dropped the Tupperware. You have no idea how satisfying that was. I might, I said, grinning. Word spread fast. The neighbors, many of whom had received warnings and notices from Karen over the last few months, now had a story. The woman who demanded power and access had been locked out by her own arrogance, and even though no one said it out loud, I knew what they were thinking. It couldn't have happened to a more deserving person. The funniest part, Karen never mentioned the key again. She stopped walking the perimeter. She stopped inspecting fences. She even skipped the next HOA meeting, sending some poor secretary in her place. A week later, the back gate was replaced by the city. New lock, new keys, and I got another one, officially registered to my address. Karen never asked for a copy. Sometimes, justice doesn't wear a robe or swing a gavel. Sometimes, justice comes in the form of a gate that locks from the outside.